My name is Alex and I work for Keen Growth Capital as an investment associate. Keen is actually located in Orlando, Florida, but I am based out of Los Angeles. We invest in early stage, usually around seed round, food and beverage companies. So we're in the consumer packaged goods industry, and we tend to look for products that are more food as medicine, science-based, disease mitigation, as well as just better for you food and beverage.
All right, welcome, welcome. Next, we have Kimberly.
I think you cut out there, but I'm assuming you called my name since
Yes.
It's quiet from everyone else. Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Nguyen. I'm with MassMutual Ventures. The firm is based in Boston, actually, but I am here in LA right now, working remote. And we do early stage investing, primarily Series A, but we are multi-stage, so we can go earlier and we can go later. I would say my time is split between two verticals, enterprise software and fintech. And check size generally between 3 to 7 million.
Wow, that's very exciting. We have two more joining us. So we have Ashley Ramirez.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. I'm with Halogen Ventures, and we're an LA-based fund, but we invest all over the US. We invest in all female-founded consumer technology companies, so just needs to be a female in the founding team of 5. She can be a co-founder, CMO, CTO, just needs to hold some sort of equity. So we do have 3 awesome male CEOs. I see some guys in here. We're not like a man-hating club. We love men. It's all about gender balance in the teams for us. All early stage, so pre-seed, seed companies, check size, we typically write about a $250,000 to $1 million check, and pretty flexible as far as terms go. So we'll lead, co-lead, co-invest. We have 62 companies under the Halogen umbrella currently, and counting. So currently investing at a fund 2 and team of 5 here in Los Angeles. So excited to be here.
And then we have Milena.
Hi, everybody. Real pleasure to be here today. I'm Milena with Germin8 Ventures. We're an early stage venture firm exclusively focused on the food and ag tech space. We do like to come in at the seed and Series A rounds with check sizes anywhere between 250,000 to 1.5 million. We invest globally, and while we're headquartered in Chicago, I'm here in Los Angeles. Half of our portfolio is in California. Lots of innovation in food and ag happening here. We invest globally, as I mentioned, and focus mostly on upstream to midstream technologies along the food value chain. I should say that while we don't look at anything directly consumer facing, some of the technologies more upstream may manifest themselves in brands. So I always say that with the caveat. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you all. So jumping right into the questions. So I sorted all of the questions that we got and they fell under 2 categories. So one category was all about pitching, pitch decks, and the second category was the founder and investor relationship and how to build that relationship, how to maintain that relationship. So we'll start with the pitching side of things. So the first question that we got, and anyone can take this one, so feel free to just unmute yourself, but what makes a pitch stand out?
I can jump in. We see so many pitch decks, I feel like, a day, but I think that sometimes some of the best design decks lack a lot of the important information. So even if you kind of look at your deck and you're like, oh, I don't know how to make this like fancy or with like cool graphics, or I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry more about the information, and then the like nice graphic design stuff can come later, because a good investor can be it could be appealing to their eye based off of like design and color, but then you kind of look at it and some of them lack that meaty information that they need. So make sure to make it clear what your company is and what the problem you're solving within the first few slides. I have gone through an entire pitch with someone, and 20 minutes later, at the end of it, I have to ask, like, so what is it that you do? And you never want the investor to ask that question, because that means you didn't do your job correctly with the pitch. And so just make sure that that's super clear. Make sure you include your market size, preferably in the billions, what's proprietary or unique to you or the company that you're building, your business model, AKA how do you make money? And I would say the one thing that stands out to me the most is team. And then of course about the raise. I kind of focus on pitch deck because I do come across some founders that actually say I prefer to not use a pitch deck, and I prefer to have a conversation. If we're on Zoom, I don't love that. I love to like walk through a quick like 10 slide deck and then we have a conversation afterwards, so you could stop sharing your screen. But if we're in person and someone pitches me in person, it's like, know your elevator pitch like the back of your hand. So, think that they only have a few minutes that you get them from point A to point B to get your point across of what your company is. And then just take their email and hopefully you'll get that next pitch meeting.
I'd love to actually build off of what Ashley said, and I think it's really crucial, the point that you raise about having clear and concise and important information on the deck, because I've also seen some decks and have been in pitch sessions where I'm very much like you, Ashley, 20 minutes down the road, I still don't know what the company does. And it is very frustrating. Everyone's time is very valuable, not just the investors, but the entrepreneurs as well. The one thing that I want to add, which is really important, and I don't hear many investors talk about as an important factor in the pitch, is actually the storytelling. You want to tell a very clear story as to why you're actually passionate about the company that you're building and the problem that you're solving. Oftentimes, we speak with a lot of opportunistic entrepreneurs that just stumble upon an opportunity, don't necessarily understand the problem in depth, but jump into a solution and building a company, which I'm not necessarily advocating against, but you want to get your story right. You want to make sure that you're telling a very compelling journey into your venture and why you and your team are the right people to go after this opportunity. In addition to that, you also want to make sure that you're talking about your background, your team's background. You want to talk about, these are all components, of course, of your deck, why your solution is unique and what makes it stand out amongst other competitors in the industry that you're going after. And also don't forget to touch on all of the advisors and mentors and the support network that you have around you. As investors, we do understand that it takes a village to build a startup. And so we want to make sure that there's a really solid team behind you, helping you execute on your strategy and vision. So storytelling is really critical, and it comes out not only through how you organize your deck and all of the information that you're including, but also how you present that to investors during intro calls and of course follow-up conversations.
Yeah, I completely agree with the storytelling aspect, and just kind of solve for the problems that Ashley and Milena both said, that it's unfortunate that if you get through a pitch and you don't know what it's about, send your deck to people who aren't investors, who don't know. Like, it should be, in those 10-ish slides, if anybody should be able to understand that there is a clear and urgent problem, what it is, why you're solving it, why your team's the team that is going to solve it correctly, and show your passion. And if somebody who knows nothing about what you're doing and nothing about the space, because like, oh, I get it, I understand what your business is about, then you have a pitch deck is doing its job.
Completely agree with what everyone said. I think just kind of to summarize, I think, know your story and be able to tell it well and cohesively, and be able to, pinpoint and identify and share exactly where in your past work experience or life have you experienced this problem that you're trying to solve. Because I think that being able to share that is very helpful and relevant. And I think specifically for us, because we do Series A, so I heard a lot of seed investing from everyone else, but at the Series A, it's really about your business plan, go to market, distribution, product roadmap, and execution, and being able to show early signs of product market fit.
Thank you for those incredible answers. Next question is, what should be the goal of a pitch deck?
I'll start it off. I think we got into a little bit of it, but it's I think it's the whole storytelling idea. At the end of it, you know who you are, what you're solving for. But I kind of like to think of it as storytelling with facts. Like, it can't just be 100% a great idea story. Like, back that up with your facts and metrics about market size, about what the problem is, how prevalent is it, what proof of success, proof of concept you've had. So back everything up as though it just makes your story that much more powerful.
And I know Ashley mentioned that she, one of the things that she likes to look out for is the team and their background and how strong they are. But for everyone else, is there a particular slide that you always look out for or that piques your interest? And if so, what do you think are some of the more important slides in a pitch deck?
Yeah, if I can jump in here really quickly, one of the other sides, of course, team is really critical. But the other side that I always am interested in is the competitive landscape slide. Oftentimes we do our internal competitive analysis, and that more times than I would like to include companies that are not listed by the firm that's pitching us, which is fine. Of course, everyone is thinking about the competitive landscape in certain ways. And so that's what really draws me to that slide. I want to see how the founders are thinking about the broad landscape that they'll be playing in, how they will be positioning the company in such a way where they have defensibility in the long run, can scale the company and really take a big chunk of the pie and be able to, of course, deliver on the returns that we as investors are looking for. So that slide is always interesting for me. And obviously we see many different ways of how it's represented. You have your traditional, pies and charts and graphs, but really going into detail on that slide, having a very thorough grasp of the competitive landscape, even just through storytelling, when you're talking to investors, is really crucial and makes for a really great pitch. So don't overlook doing your due diligence on your primary competitors and be able to speak to certain key metrics that are not only relevant for your business, but also that of the whole industry that you're operating in.
I'll also say the projection slide showing your how you're planning on growing your business is super crucial, and that usually tends to be a place I spend a lot of time for opening up a conversation, because you want projections that make sense. I think there's a lot of pressure when you're going out to fundraise that you have a hockey stick curve growth and you're just throwing in numbers there and saying, of course we're going to grow this much. And it might be true, but I want to know, like, you really thought it out, that there was a reason behind, exactly where your consumers are and how you want to get them. And not to say that we ever hold you to it, that it's 100% right? But it just displays that your industry, your consumer, how you're going to get to them, and how you're going to measure that. And so that's where I like to dive in. So if you can answer everything about the assumptions and the thought process for building your projection slide, you'll be in good shape to have that conversation with an investor.
I would just say one point, adding on to that, I think if you do include a slide like that, or do mention kind of future projections and target goals for year 1, year 2, year 3, to really be realistic about them, because if this is a kind of a long run game, and so if we end up connecting now and then end up touching base in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, and a lot of the founders that we invest in, we've known for years. And so we do keep track of that. So if you tell me, you're going to wrap the year up at 1 million annual recurring revenue, and the following year at 3 million, and the next time we talked, you did not hit those metrics, it's going to be a red flag for us. So just keeping that in mind to be realistic.
And then the last question that I have in regards to all things pitching and pitch decks is, what do you like to see from a founder intro that secures the first meeting with you? So this could be anything from like any specific materials, their pitch deck, an overview, like what is gonna get a founder that first meeting?
Happy to jump in. If you're having someone introduce you, make it easy for that person or that investor to easily like forward something over or copy and paste. I typically will read whatever is in the body of the email, as long as it's not like an essay. If it's an essay, I'll skim through it, but I won't like register all the details of it. So if it's coming from a warm intro, I do typically prioritize those over cold emails, but I try and get back to all the cold emails as well. So make it short and sweet, a one-liner of what your company does. And then right below that, it could even be some bullet points of accolades and milestones if you have them. And then you could even add like a quick 1 or 2 sentences about you as the founder. And I do like to know a quick like detail about the raise, because depending on the stage is when if I can determine if it's a fit or not. That way, I'm not wasting your time, you're not wasting anyone else's time. Yeah, those are probably what I would say, just short and sweet, and then attach the deck. You guys could also use DocSend if you don't want your deck like being sent around, but some people just send teaser decks. So a lot shorter of a deck where you're not really sharing anything proprietary, that can be sent around in PDF. So have them attach that as well, and they can kind of get a feel for what you are. Always link your website if you have it too.
I'll just mention one more thing, which is hopefully helpful to you. Obviously, there's a lot of investors out there, and you have plenty of options when deciding who to bring in as an investor into your startup. The really critical thing to think about, and that goes for, of course, reaching out to investors, is, are they actually a good fit for you? And are they the investor that actually is going after the industry that you're operating in? Oftentimes, I mentioned I'm in food and ag tech. Oftentimes I get pitches, from social media companies, or, companies that are building products completely outside of my investment focus, and that really irks me. So make sure that whenever you're reaching out to investors, whether it's a cold email or, as Ashley was saying, warm intros with relevant information, make sure that there is a clear alignment. Review the investors' websites and their investment theses if those are published. Talk to other founders who are already in their portfolios to figure out, is this the right investor for my startup, and should I even go through the whole effort of reaching out, connecting, and having those introductory calls. Doing your own due diligence on the right investors to pitch is also really critical, and that goes for emails that you're sending out or requesting warm intros. There's nothing like burning bridges in the investor community. It's a small community in one way or another, so you want to be very thoughtful as to who you're reaching out to.
Let's transition to the founder-investor relationship and any advice that you have to share. So one question that we got is, when is the best time for a founder to start engaging investors? Maybe on the flip side, when is like not the best idea or best time?
The best time to fundraise is when you don't need to fundraise. So always entertain investors is what I think, even if you're not fundraising, and you can be transparent about that. You can always say like, I'm not fundraising now, but happy to keep you on my investor update list. Because when you don't need the money, it's just the best time to go out and take money. And you're in no rush, like you're not running out of runway, money in the bank, and it's not like a do or die situation.
We typically advise our portfolio companies to start raising. I mean, yes, completely agree to Ashley's point. Don't raise when you don't need to be. But I think 7 months before you run out of capital is typically what we advise. So you can start the conversations early, and to Ashley's point, say we're not raising currently, but we'll keep you on the investor list. But I would say like around 7 months before you actually run out of capital is a good time to maybe start to get those conversations going.
Yeah, actually, just to add on to what Kimberly said, we do have a similar benchmark for our companies, and obviously, it depends from industry to industry. Being in food and ag, the capital requirements are different. So, and the capital raise process is a little slower, typically. So, one other thing that we do advise our startups is to have a list of investors that you're very interested in developing relationships. Those may not necessarily be investors that you would want to have on your cap table for your seed round, but you may want to reach out to them when you're looking to raise Series A, Series B, and so forth. Get them on your investor update list. Start having key conversations with people that at these firms that may be able to push your company higher up the food chain, and get partners' attention. Have that investor list, keep it top of mind, start figuring out when the right time would be to engage with these investors, and developing these warm relationships with them goes a really long way. And we often say, it's never too early to start a conversation with investors. I think that goes across the board as a sort of a benchmark practice that you want to continue as you grow your company.
I'll say something a little bit, not so much about the relationship, but as they're saying, fundraising usually takes longer than you think. Just a helpful tip is, if you don't already have it, build your data room now and just kind of keep it updated. It takes a long time if you don't have all your documents in one place that investor will ask for, and that could slow down the process. And it's just a great way to keep yourself organized, right? Is to have everything you'll need in one place, and just keep that updated, but even before you formally go out and raise.
One helpful thing too is to be as organized as you possibly can be. One portfolio company just crushes their fundraise every time they do it, and they're so thoughtful and organized, and they actually have this like crazy Excel sheet of every single investor that they've met, and they code it in a certain way. Like they color code it. You don't have to color code an Excel sheet if you don't want to, but based on how your brain works, you can do that. But every single investor that they met exists in this spreadsheet, and they basically go around to their current investors and say, here's who we've met with, here's who we haven't, here's who we'd like to meet. And we'll have that set up so that anyone that could help, or whether it be their investors or advisors, can make intros, can go into that document and see like, oh, I know, these 5 investors, happy to make that introduction or give them a nudge. but seeing who you, that way, if you're asking people to make introductions for you or help, you're not doing like a double intro if you've already met them. It helps your investors and advisors with that as well. But if you don't have investors or advisors yet, or people to help you with the fundraise to make introductions, I recommend having an Excel sheet or wherever you want to keep it of a list of every single investor you've ever met, and going to them and pitching them. And then you'll know whether or not it's a fit for them based off of their investment strategy at that time.
The next question sounds like a really fun one. It says, what's your favorite deal to date and why? How did you get introduced to that founder? And at what point did you know you wanted to invest? Quite a handful of a question. But your favorite?
I'll go first. So my favorite to date is we invested in a company called Because Animals, and they're doing cell-based meat or culture-grown meat, but for pet food, in that industry in particular. That was our favorite. Is one of our first ones, investments in the area. So it was really new and interesting to learn about. I thought they had an interesting approach. You know, you see the Memphis Meats and Finless Foods are going in one direction, and this just felt very unique, and addressing, had a great story behind it, addressing sustainability issues. But the founder itself, she's a scientist, but very personable and really, really passionate. And I think that really stood out. Was she 200% believed in everything she did and really convinced us on that team piece that we were talking about. Was there any other part of that question?
How you met them, when you knew, why was your favorite? So many questions.
Yeah. How I think they got introed from an earlier investor they had. SOSV kind of sent them over to us, so the warm intro helped. And yeah, how we knew, really I think for that one, mostly the founder sold us on it, of her experience and her passion and confidence, and what she had been doing up to that point. So.
I can go. I can't pick a favorite one because it's like picking a favorite child, but I can tell you the one that most recent that we did that I'm excited about. It's called Caribou, and it's a video calling like platform basically for families, so parents or grandparents and children, and it's super interactive and a learning platform as well. The founder is killer. Actually, Goldman Sachs started a like cohort for diverse female founders, and they sent her over to us, and she actually works with Goldman Sachs. She has a pilot with all their corporate and basically all of their employees. And she was just killer. We had our first call. She's from Miami and just blew me away the first like 20 minutes that I talked to her. And I remember thinking after that call, oh my gosh, we have to invest in her. And I was really excited for her to meet our team. She met the team, our team loved her, and we invested in her shortly after. So yeah, she just like had so much great energy, I don't know, and really knew the problems that she wanted to solve. And we were really focused on this space in particular at that time. So it really excited us, and we're happy to have her in the portfolio now.
Anyone else want to share?
Sure, I can chime in. One of the companies that we've invested in, Brightseed, it was actually an interesting way that we met them. We were at a conference for food and ag tech innovation in the Bay Area. And one of the founders was presenting the company in front of an audience of investors. And really caught her eye. She's, another female co-founder, brilliant team of scientists and co-founders with really deep operational experience in the industry that they're working in. And we basically were sitting in the conference room listening to this presentation, 20 minutes later, we were basically sold on it. And, you know, we just said, this is a brilliant team to back, solving a really big problem in the food space, awesome technology. And we were actually sitting next to one of our friends and colleagues at another venture firm, also in the food and ag space. And we sort of like did, you know, the double take, like, hey, are we actually thinking the same thing? Is this team not amazing and the technology really awesome? And, you know, he was like, yeah. And literally in like 20 minutes, we decided we need to both invest in this company. Eventually we did, of course, we conduct really thorough due diligence, but it could only take you 20 minutes to convince an investor that this is the opportunity to invest in. And it just goes back to, you know, having really high energy, projecting confidence in what you're doing, having a real clear story and storytelling behind what you're doing, selling investors on the vision as well is a huge part of the storytelling. And so I really encourage you to think about, you know, all of these different aspects of the pitch, because, you know, so we ended up investing in that company. But I'll tell you, last week, I also had a conversation with another female founder, and not, you know, this is not to say that male founders can't do the same, but we also had a half-an-hour conversation, and our whole team was actually convinced in that 30-minute conversation. So it happens more frequently than you think. These are definitely not outlier situations, but you have to get the right components of the pitch in order to convince investors in a short period of time that this is an opportunity they can't miss out on. So yeah, it's Brightseed is a company that I was referring to. Check them out if you'd like to.
Right. And maybe I'll just mention one that something that we invested in recently. They're still in stealth, so I won't mention their name, but kind of end goal is trying to help democratize the real estate investing space and trying to make it more accessible for the average person to be investing in real estate and, you know, distributing wealth. And so one of my colleagues has known the co-founders for years now at their previous company, back from their previous company. And when they ended up exiting that startup, they ended up coming over and starting a new venture, and we ended up backing them. But it kind of goes back to the point of, you know, venture and this entire industry is all about relationship building, because a lot of the founders that we've backed, we've known for many years now.